everyone. So welcome to today's session. So in this tutorial we're going to learn the tips on how to color grade your photos like a pro in Lightroom. However, the other thing that we're going to discuss also is we're going to discuss how to design a media signature in Photoshop and how you can import that into Lightroom. So this is basically how we're going to what we're going to discuss tonight. So basically on the tips on how to color grade photos like a pro in Lightroom, we're going to discuss some of the tools that we'll be using, that is white balance, tone curve, camera calibration, and HSL/color. So these are some of the tools that we're going to work with. But first of all, before we go into Lightroom, we're going to learn how to design a media signature in Photoshop and how to import it into Lightroom. So without further ado, let's dive straight into the lesson. So what you need to do first is that you have to ensure that there's no other window that is open on your laptop, no other software that is open, because the Photoshop, like most of the Adobe softwares, they're very big, so you have to ensure that you don't open any other software on your laptop so that it can run smoothly. So without further ado, let's just dive straight into the lesson. So you open your Photoshop, you just click on Photoshop, just double click to open Photoshop, just keep refreshing until it opens because it's quite big. It might take a little bit of time, so it's opening. Okay, you might want to give it a little bit of time. It's a very big software, so it has to refresh its tools. You know, it has to build preferences, reading preferences, and do all those things. So make sure you just give it time, just keep refreshing until it finally opens. So this is a very interesting topic that we're going to discuss today, because it's an aspect of copywriting your images. So you want to put a signature on your photo so that whoever your client is, wherever they will go, if they post it on Facebook, your signature will be there. So it's part of advertising. If they share it with someone, your signature will be there. So wherever the photo goes, you still know basically where that it's your photo, so somebody can easily know and maybe even question to say, oh, what media is this? Oh, who shot you? You know, because of your signature. So you copyright your image by putting your media signature. So when you open Photoshop, this is the interface that will appear once it is open. So the first thing that you do is you click on File and say Create New. So when you go on New, make sure you name your document here. So you put your preset details. So what do you want to name this one? So I'm going to say one shot media photography. Okay, great. So that's basically it. So this is the media signature that I want to create. So make sure that your width is 1280 or 1280, and make sure here your link is on pixels. It's ticked on pixels, and make sure your height is at 720, and make sure your resolution is at 300, and also ensure that pixels/inches here on your resolution, and make sure your color code mode is in RGB, which is red, green, blue color, and it's at 8-bit. Make sure your background, you can choose any color that you want for your background, but in our case I'd like it to be white. So these are some of the things that you might want to consider. Then in your color profile, they come automatically as you change. This comes automatically here. Your pixel aspect ratio, it also comes automatically. Make sure it's square pixels. When you are done putting up all these things, you just click on Create. So once you click on Create, this is what will appear. So don't be scared when you look at the interface of Photoshop, because there are quite a number of tools here number of tools that you can use. But don't worry, it looks intimidating, but this is very simple, especially when you know exactly what you want to do in Photoshop. So in our case, we want to design a media signature, which is very simple. So the tools that we're going to use mostly is the text tool, and that is what we'll be working with often, like throughout. And we also maybe use our color panel. Yeah, we might want to use this a little bit, but not so much. So we'll be using colors as well, depending on what we want to create. So once this opens and everything is ready, so click on your text tool. And then once you click on your text tool, just click on your background, on your white background. Once you click, this will pop up. So this comes automatically, lorem ipsum. This comes automatically in Photoshop 2020. So once this comes up, this one is already highlighted. So just type the words like this, your company name or your photography business name that you want to be putting on your photos. So in my case, it's One Shot Media. So I'll just say One Shot Media. Okay, One Shot Media Photography. But then I do not like this font type, so I want to choose another font type for my signature. So I'll just highlight everything like I did. So to highlight, you just left click rather, and then you just move your cursor all the way, and then everything is highlighted. Once that is done, you go to your to this panel where you can choose your typeface or your font type. You just click there. So I'll be going slowly. I think I'll go with Matchmaker. Matchmaker, it looks interesting. Let's see this one. Okay, I think After Night looks better. This is very interesting. So when you are done with your first words, you just come here on this tick arrow, on this tick panel, just click on it, and then there you go, you have your words. So these words look interesting. I like the font type, it looks really dope. So when you're done with this, the second thing that you have to do is you have to write, remember we have another word which is photography. So I want it to have a different typeface, that's why I haven't typed it in one sentence. So I'll just click at the bottom, make sure it's already in the text too. So once you click at the bottom, this will appear. So to drag and move this thing here, make sure that when you're here, it will be showing like this. Look at my cursor. When you come at the bottom, it shows this. So when it shows this, it gives you power. When you left click, it gives you power to move the letters back and forth. So we'll just align them there. And then since this one is already highlighted, we'll just type on top of it. We just go on the keyboard and everything will go out as we type the word that we want to type. So in our case, we want to type photography, and I want it to be in capital letters. So just click caps. I want it to be in block letters, and then just say photography. Okay, photography. So I don't like this type first, so I'll have to change my font type by highlighting it and going in the same process and look for something that is more suitable. So I'll be looking at this. I think this looks good. Yeah, I might want to use this. And once you identify the type first that you want to use, just go there again, click, and then see how it's looking. Okay, it's not looking as expected, then I might just want to move it there. Alright, so this is what we have. So once you write this, you know that okay, this looks a bit okay. If I put it on a photo, I think it might look lit. But then the question is, can this thing be put in a different color other than black? The answer is yes. You can put it in any form of color that you want. So let's take, for instance, we want to change the word photography to a different color. Just hold on, just click Ctrl-Z to delete that. Okay, you can simply click tick, okay, just to remove that. So make sure it's on text tool, just click on your word photography. So we want to change the color, we highlight it, Then we go on our colors, red. Just click on red. It means this color has changed to red. Basically, how you change the colors, sorry I forgot, you come here on top and then you click on red and the color changes automatically if you want it to be red, and then just click OK. Once you click OK, press tick, and there you are. You have your word photography in red. So if this is how you want your media signature to be, this is feasible, it can be. So red and black. Okay, I think we can go with this. I think I'm okay with it. There's no problem. So when you're done and satisfied with your design, the next thing that you have to do is that this has to be transparent, so that to avoid when you upload this, or to avoid this background to be present when you import your media signature, you have to make sure that your background is transparent. But before then, let's just move these letters slightly. I want them to be in the middle, so that when we okay, just click OK there, then we go there, move it slightly there, just tick. Okay, so when you're comfortable with the way your letters are looking, make sure that now you have to delete this background so that you remain with a transparent background. But how do you do that? You just come here on your layers. So remember, since we wrote these letters separately, so we've got layer 1, we've got photography, and one shot media. So what do you do here? You have to delete the background. So just drag and go on this box and delete, or you can simply click on it and delete it just there. So now that we've removed our background, it means that these words are transparent. So how do you save this work? That is the next thing. So always save your work in case you're using a desktop and then it blacks out. It means work done is equal to zero rather. So always ensure that you save your work. So you can save your work by clicking Ctrl S, or if you don't want to click Ctrl S, you can just go on File and just go on Save. So when you reach here, you have to select a source where you want to save your word from. But since today we are looking at color grading, you just go on the desktop. There's a folder that actually we created called the color grading in Lightroom, because this is the topic that we are discussing today. And then just click on it, open it, double click to open, and then you want to save your Photoshop document, meaning once you save this, it means that this Photoshop document, you can always come back to this signature, always, and you can edit it and add whatever you want, since it's saved as a PSD document or Photoshop document. Now, you're done with saving this, so meaning your laptop can go off, you still come back and find this wherever you've saved it. But then how do you save it in form of transparent, like in order for you to put it on your image? How do you save it? So you make sure that you go on File, or you can just simply click Ctrl S. But if you click Ctrl S, it will just save to just bear with me, let me just delete that. It wasn't supposed to be. You can just delete that. Okay, it's gone. So I was talking about saving. So if you click Ctrl S, it means you'll just be saving in your PSD format. But then if you want to save it now into another format that is acceptable by Lightroom, you just go on File, click File, and then go on Save As. So when you click on Save As, so the first thing that you also have to understand about Photoshop is that it's got different formats. It's got a bunch of formats. So you need to understand your formatting as you save this work. So you need to save this particular item in PNG format. So Photoshop has got a variety of formats. It's got JPEG, it's got PNG, it's got PSD, it's got different sorts of formats. But make sure that you save this this particular one in JPEG format. So you just click here and then you go on PNG format. So once you create this thing here, make sure you know where you want to save it as well. So as we've already established, we are saving it in color grading. So you just click save. Make sure as you save, it should be a large file size, that is fast saving, so that you maintain the quality of the words, so that even if you put it on any different picture, it shouldn't look fade or faint or maybe a bit blurry, because it's not a high quality thing. So make sure it's always on large file size to ensure that it's in high quality, and then you just click OK. So when you are done with this, it means this is saved actually on our desktop. So you can even close this because you've already saved it. So just click close it. Once you close it, just refresh. Okay, once you refresh, come to your color grading folder and then open, and then you find your media signature right there. So this is your media signature, and this is your same media signature now saved in PSD format, meaning you can still click and open this and edit if you want to edit in Photoshop. So that is basically how you create your media signature in Photoshop. But then the next question is, how do you import it into Lightroom? So now as we go into Lightroom, I'm going to teach you now the basics or the tips on how you can color grade photos in Lightroom like a pro. So let us open our Lightroom, which is here. In our case, we're using Lightroom Classic. Just double click on it to open it. Then just keep refreshing it, because these softwares are slightly big. They may take a bit of time to open because of their size. So just keep refreshing. Okay, there we go. Lightroom, Adobe Photoshop Lightroom Classic is opening. So let's keep refreshing until it's fully open. Okay, so it is still loading. Okay, I think it must be done by now. Okay, let's just give it some time. Let's keep refreshing. Let's keep refreshing. Okay, there we go. It's still loading a little bit. Still loading a little bit. And it's done. Okay, so what I have done in Lightroom is that I've actually imported a few different kinds of photos for the sake of the lesson. So okay, I'm just going to reset everything in case. Okay, just going to reset everything so that our photos, and okay, I'm just going to reset everything just real quick. Okay, so that we can learn from this. Okay, thank you very much. So once you open your Lightroom, this is the interface. This is how the interface looks like. But then how do you color grade your images? So moreover, these images have already been edited, so we're just color grading. Okay, so how do you color grade in Lightroom? So the first thing that you have to do when you're color grading in Lightroom is that you have to correct the white balance. So the white balance basically is found in the basic too. So just click on basic, and then you have your WB, which is your white balance. So here you will mainly be using the temperature and the tint to color grade your image. And then you can also control your white balance by simply clicking a preset that was already made in Lightroom, which is here. So just click here on auto. So once you click automatic, your image changes automatically. So this is it. It has already color graded itself automatically using white balance. So once you correct your white balance, you You can also check your temperature if you want to change it a little bit. So as I'm changing, have you seen it's going all the way to blue? But don't go all the way. You can just add just a little bit, like what kind of form do you want? So for me, I don't want any blues. In fact, I want to reduce it. This is the kind of image that I want because of the browns. I like the browns to just come out like that. So when you're done with that, you look at your tint. Do you want to add any other thing to your tint? No, I just want to maintain. I just want to go maybe a little bit further just to have that crisp image. So this is basically how you color grade using your white balance tools, which is the temperature, the tint, and then you can also go on your presets right here and just go on auto. It will automatically be color graded. Then the next tip really on white balance, you can also use a white balance selector to actually automatically color grade your image. So how do you do that? So you just click on it, and then once you click on your tool, make sure you go on areas that are white. Then once you click on the areas that are white, it can be, in our case, the top is white, or you can click in an area that is white. It will automatically detect the color. So I'll just click on white there, and it has detected the color in which it's supposed to be. So meaning all those things that I had actually done here, that had customized the temperature and everything, is gone. It has selected its original way that it's supposed to look like. So this is how you color grade using the white balance, or this is how you correct your white balance. So once this is established, then you are good to go. Your image is looking already okay. You can still save it at this point and export it. But then I'd like us to go a little bit further. I'm going to use a different image. So we have this image here. Okay, so on this image, we want to use another tool that we can use to actually edit our photo, or color grade our photo. So the next tip that you have to do is you need to use your tone curve. So this will show you the overall RGB caves. So RGB caves, these are basically the red, green, and blue colors. So you can edit using the red, green, and blue colors, which is the RGB. So what are these RGB? These RGB are basically shadows, midtones, and highlights. So as you're editing your photos, like I said, you need to have an objective. So what are you looking out for? What do you want to pop out the most in your photo? Like what are you trying to send? Like, photography is art. So you need to have that instinct in your mind, like what am I sending out there? You have to make sure that you're putting out great content out there so that you stand out among many, because this market is also saturated. We have a lot of photographers now. So in order for you to stand out, make sure you've got your own editing style, which is perfect. So now these tips that I'm giving you, these are some of the tips that pros use to stand out in the saturated market. So without really wasting much of your time with all this pep talk, let's dive straight into the tone curve and how do you color grade using the tone curve. So we just click on the tone curve and the curve will come. So here, this is basically the point curve, and these are our blacks and basically our blacks. These are shadows. So how do you remove shadows or add a bit of shadows to your image? So you just come here and you click, you just make point, or you want to edit. Okay, so this was a mistake. Have you seen how the image has changed? The moment you just move that, everything changes. So you want to change it slightly if you so wish. Do you want to add more light? Do you want to change it? So make sure you're very subtle as you use this tool. Why? Because it affects a number of things. So the first thing that it affects is the skin of your subject. The next thing it affects is the background in your photo. It also affects whatever thing, like the clothes, everything is affected. So you want to be very, very careful as you use this tool. So you want to add maybe, very slightly if you want to change anything. Oh no, like it just a little bit. Okay, you just don't overdo it. You go there, you change a little bit. Okay, so next thing that I want to add to my image is the red. Okay, how do you do that? So you also do the same thing. Once you click there, you add a little bit of red. Okay, that's too much. That's too much. That is too much. Just slightly, a little bit of it. Okay, and here maybe just a little. Okay, just create a pointer. Once you create that point, it should be just a little, not too much. Okay, just somewhere there. So if for you to appreciate what we have done, you need to look at before and after. So when you click here, before, that is before how this is before we edited, this is how the image was looking, and after. I'm sure you're able to notice that difference. When you're done with your red, go to your green. So when I look at in the background, there's just a few green and I'm not really interested in the green, but I can still touch it a little bit here and there. So I'll just move it slightly. Okay, as you can see the image, my subject's skin is changing, so I don't want to add more of that. So I'll just actually reduce on the greens. Basically just reduce on the greens, but you have to be very careful. Then you go on your blue, you add just a little bit of blue for your sky, just a little bit of blue, but you be mindful of how the skin of your subject is changing. Be very mindful. So you need to be very subtle with these two. So this is basically how you use your tone curve. So when you look at your before and after, that is the effect really of the tone curve. So this is basically how this tool works. Okay, so when you have done that, you know that you've edited your image slightly, and it can actually be ready. You can even export it, and it's a client ready image. But before we go there, I want us to look at the next important lesson that we are learning tonight. So we're going to learn the HSL/color. Also, how do we color grade using HSL/color? So what is HSL? HSL is basically the hue, saturation, and luminance. So you need to know how this works. So the hue and the saturation, on top we have the one that works with highlights. And you just click here. This is your hue. This is your saturation and luminance, which is HSL. So how do you color grade here? You just go to your hue first, and you need to know exactly what do you want to add. For me, I feel like I need to add a little bit of brownish, because it has a brown coat, and I like the brown here. So you add a little bit of, okay, let's see, red is too much, just maybe slightly of that, a bit of orange. I don't want to take much of the orange. I want maybe to maintain, because I want to maintain the brown. Okay, a bit of orange, maybe a bit of yellowish, a bit of green for the green in the background. I don't want to overdo it, and maybe a bit of blue for the sky, bit of blue for the sky. Okay, don't overdo it. Be careful, because your subject's skin is always changing. Look at the before, look at the before and after, before and after. So when you're done there, you go to your saturation. You also add just a tiny bit of saturation. Don't overdo it. You should be observing the skin of your subject. So you can't touch everything. You just need to know where to touch. Like, what do you want to add? Know what you want to add to your image. And go to your luminance. Likewise, I want a bit of, just a little bit of the brownish stuff. Meaning I need to reduce a bit of my orange. I need to be very careful. There, a bit of my yellow. Okay, that is okay. So you can edit now. So this is basically how you color grade using HSL/color. So you can even go deeper, maybe in different images. Let's try to check out this image. Okay. So this looks like a client ready image. So the color in the background is okay. I think this one was edited. I just want to use it as an example. So this one is edited, but we can still color grade it. So how do you color grade it? Using HSL/color. So you add a bit of luminance to it. As you're adding luminance, you should be very careful. Look at how you've seen all these differences. Be mindful of all these things. So you add maybe a little bit of luminance, a little bit of orange, a little bit of maybe yellow in the background. You go to your greens, make sure your greens look realistic. So what basically the hue does, the hue actually is like it affects your highlights in your image. So you want to be very careful. So you want to add more of that, or maybe a little bit of that. You add a bit of aqua in your image, a bit of blue. You don't want to touch everything. You go to your saturation, you add a bit of saturation. You want to be very careful as well, because you don't want to damage the skin of your subject. Then you add a bit of orange. I'm interested in the greens in the background, so you can add a little bit of green there, a little bit of aqua. Don't overdo it, be careful. Bit of blue. You go to your hue, you do likewise, you add a little bit of that. Be careful, should be very mindful of the skin. Okay, bit of yellow. So when you look at your before, just hold on, when you look at your before and after image, before and after, before and after, there's a slight difference. So that's how you color grade your photos in Lightroom. So when you're done with your image, the question is, how do you save? So we'll just go back to this image that we actually color graded. So I'm just going to run you real quick how you can edit it further. I feel like the subject is not much in focus, so I want to sharpen this image so that my subject should be in focus. So I'll just go on the details. Okay, so this is just an extra lesson because I just want to sharpen the image into a client ready image. So I'll just increase them all the way somewhere there, maybe increase a bit of the details, just a little bit of the details. Once that is done, I want to add a bit of luminance to it, maybe somewhere around maybe 70. Okay, that's basically it. Then okay, I'm going to show you maybe the radio filter, how it works. You just highlight your subject only, and then you reduce the exposure in the sides so that your subject should pop out. That's basically how you do it. So when you're done with this image, you're happy. So now the question is, we created a media signature earlier. So how do you add it to your image? So when you're satisfied with your image, you're happy with it. Okay, you're happy with your image, you're satisfied with it, you want to export it. So how do you export? Remember in our last lesson we learned that it's Control Shift and I. Control Shift I. Or you can simply go to, okay, or you can, or export rather, it's Control Shift E. I beg your pardon, Control Shift E. That's how you export your image. So you just click Control Shift E to export, or come on File and go on Export. So once you click Export, this interface will actually pop up. So you need to know your location, where you're saving your image. Okay, we're going to create an image on the desktop. So we'll just say color grade. So click on color grade. Bear with me. Color grade. Color grading. So this will be our subfolder on the desktop. So make sure it's ticked here and make sure it goes to the desktop, meaning this subfolder will be on the desktop. So how do you add your media signature? You just drag your cursor all the way to the bottom, and then when you reach at the bottom you'll find watermarking. So make sure this is ticked. So make sure your watermark is ticked. Okay, make sure it's ticked like that, and then you click here and then you go on edit watermarks. So once you go on edit watermarks, it will load. It might take a little bit of time to load, but it's loading. So let's just give it time to load. Okay, so when it's done loading, this image will pop up. So once this image shows there, you go on top and go to your text options and image options. So when you click on your image options, you need to choose the media signature that you want to use. So remember, we created something in one of the folders on the desktop, so just go and click choose. So when you click choose, you go to the desktop and then you go to the folder where you saved your media signature from Lightroom and just click there and go all the way to the bottom, and the media signature is right there. So just click on it and just say choose. So once it's done, it will pop up on your image. So you choose whether you want it to be at the bottom or on top. So in my case, I feel like, okay, even the top looks okay, but I think I might want to just put it at the bottom there. So once this is done, it means you've put your media signature. So just go ahead and click save. So when you click save, usually when you are creating a watermark, it always comes in a form of a preset, meaning it is something that you can use repeatedly and just get your preset and paste it anywhere. So we'll just name it so that we establish the thing that we'll be using in our next lesson. So you just say color grading. So you just click on color grading, color grading, color grading. So that's how your preset is going to be named. So the next time you want to export any photo, just go on color grading, then the media signature will be at the bottom and you're good to go. So just click create. When you're done with everything, just click export. So you wait for your image to export. Once it reaches 100%, it will close on its own. So it means it has been exported to the desktop. So you can just minimize your Lightroom and just go to the desktop and look for that new folder that you have created. So it's basically here, color grading. So just click twice on it to open it. Click twice on it to open it. So your image is right here. So just preview your image just to see if everything is looking okay. Just double click on it. Okay, it's taking a bit of time to open. Okay, there you go. So if you zoom in, you'll be able to see your media signature, the one that you created in Photoshop. It's at the bottom. So wherever this photo goes, this media signature will always be there. Okay, and then as you can see, we've added a lot of brown to the image, so the client and whatever she's holding in the hands, the guitar, everything looks brownish because of the color grading. So this is how a client ready image looks like, and you're good to go, and you can easily give this to your client and your client will be very, very happy. So just to go back to Lightroom and just finish up on the tips before we call it a day, you just go back to Lightroom. So this is basically how you edit your image. So just to see a before and after so that we can appreciate what we have done. So this is a before and this is an after image. So this one is color graded, this one is not. So the difference is minimal, but it gives you an advantage in the competitive market because of how you color grade your images. So you need to know exactly what you are doing. So the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to learn the last tip on color grading, which is the camera calibration. So camera calibration, basically this is how you can calibrate your colors depending on what camera you use. So each camera has got its own color calibration. I'll give an example of these smartphones that we have. So when you look at a photo in Samsung and then you look at a photo in Techno, you see the difference. So why do we have these differences? It's because of camera calibration. We have got different color calibrations in all these devices. So when you look at all these different phones, they have different color calibration, and this is how cameras also operate. They have different color calibrations. So without further ado, let's go to color calibration. So you just come to calibration and click on calibration. So calibration also gives you an opportunity to choose basically what you want to edit. So in our case, we've got shadows, we've got red primary, we've got green primary, and we have blue primary. So my main interest here is the green coat that she's putting on. I don't know what to call this, but I don't know if it's a coat or something. I don't know what it's called. It's green. So just make sure I add a bit of green to it. As you can see, it's changing. So when I go all the way, you see that it's changing. Okay, so this is green. I just add a tiny bit of green, a little bit of blue primary, maybe aqueous. Okay, maybe I think that's too much. A little bit of aqueous, as you can see, then a bit of saturation, just tiny bit. Don't overdo it because it may lose color. You go to your ready primer. Make sure have you seen the skin subject is changing. Don't overdo it. Just add a little bit. When you are done, you can just compare the two things just to see your before and after. So this is before and this is after. Before and after. So this is basically how you calibrate your image using camera calibration. So you need to be very careful with the skin tones when you are working with color calibration. You should be very careful with the skin tone because it changes the skin tone of your subject. So you have to be very, very careful. So this is how you color grade using color calibration. Alright, thank you so much for being part of today's call. So just a recap of what we discussed. So we discussed color grading tips. We started with you have to correct your white balance, that is your temperature and the tint, and then it's got also a white balance tool selector that you can just click on whites and it will automatically color grade your image on its own. Then the next thing is that we discussed was the tone curve. So this shows you how the overall RGB caves look like. So which is the red, green and the blue. Then it mostly talks about the shadows, the mid-tones and the highlights. Okay, so the next thing that we looked at was actually the HSL/color, which is the hue, saturation and luminance. So we've also learned how these tools actually work in ensuring that our image comes out perfectly. Then the last thing that we discussed was the camera calibration. So camera calibration, this is basically how you can calibrate your colors depending on what camera you use. It is also an interesting way to get creative with your editing. So this tool is also very important in ensuring that your creativity goes all the way up. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being on today's call. So that's basically how you edit your photos. So you can do it to different kinds of photos and you can get great results as long as you master your colors. You know that you're making strides. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being part of today's lesson. Let's make sure we subscribe to the channel as we view this video. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the notification button so that each time we post new content, new videos for you to learn, you are alerted on your YouTube channel. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and also you put your notification bell so that you should be able to receive every content that we post on this page, on the page that is called Platinum Records. So thank you so much for being on today's call. You have a great day. Bye for now.